Well, that was a big time trade. Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards has finally been traded from the Wizards to the Phoenix Suns. The news of Beal getting traded started to circulate a few days ago, and the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns were the two teams heavily pursuing Beal, and it ended up being the Suns who enticed the Wizards more, who ended up acquiring Beal's talent. The Suns gave up Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, several second-round picks, and a pick swap, which now gives the Suns an official new big three centered around KD, Booker, and now Bradley Beal. So how good will the Suns now be adding in, I would say, a perennial all-star level player? Well, I'll be going over the pros and cons of adding Beal to the team, so make sure you guys don't click away from the video. Actually hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and we're gonna get right into it. Bradley Beal is still one of the best scorers in the NBA, even though it's not talked about enough, both on the ball and off the ball. On the ball, Beal will give you a lot of his scoring from the mid-range. His ability to always get to his spots with a pretty tight handle now adds another premier shot creator to that Suns team. He's pretty versatile in this approach as well as a scorer, which is why, even though when his production took a dip this year, you saw a jump in efficiency compared to last year. And at this point, with how the Suns are such a heavy mid-range shooting team, you probably don't say no to adding another top self-creator in the league who's still a good difficult shot maker. And the underrated aspect on this acquisition that I do believe that people aren't talking about enough is how Beal does actually give them a plus at being able to generate rim pressure. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the most revolutionary aspect he adds to this team, but for a team that desperately needed an injection of a player that adds rim pressure, Beal at least is a positive that the Suns get from this Beal. Bradley Beal finishes at the rim at a 71.6% clip last season, which has him as the 9th best among guards in the league, which I find pretty good. He also averaged 15.9 drives a game, which is 10th in the NBA. And this stat I'm going to throw, I think, better executes the point I'm making. According to B-Ball Index rim shot creation stat, Beal is a plus 1.5, which ranks in the 94th percentile in the NBA. And the stat is based on the player's ability to get to the rim, because the drives per game stat can get a bit wonky sometimes on NBA.com. Regardless, I do believe getting rid of Chris Paul and Landry Shamet, who both provided basically zero rim pressure to the Suns, and replacing that with Bradley Beal, who actually gives you something in the rim pressure department, is one of the reasons I do think is why he'll help this team. And it's one of the reasons that I do believe the Suns were really hampered in their loss to the Nuggets, because outside of Booker in that series, no player on that Suns team could truly apply rim pressure to the point where the Nuggets were truly at their weak point. So adding Beal should help in this department. And off the ball, I actually believe Beal can give his most value to the Suns for a multitude of reasons. One of them, he proves to be a legit spacer for the Suns. Another one of the problems for the Suns last year is in the minutes that Chris Paul played, especially in the Nuggets series, they would love to sag off and play help whoever was the man guarding Chris Paul. Chris Paul just isn't that good enough of a catch and shoot shooter to punish the Nuggets for that defense, including the rest of the Suns roster outside of KD and Booker. Well, Bradley Beal shot 41.8% on catch and shoot threes on 2.7 attempts, and him being a great spacer helps KD and Booker be able to get to their spots easier, and Beal's going to get way easier catch and shoot looks off the ball playing next to far better advantage creators on the Suns in comparison to the Wizards. Also, Beal's ability to be a cutter and a legit dribble handoff threat should help the Suns, especially as that handoff threat, because Beal's a really good movement player, and I mean in the sense that Beal is great quickly attacking off the catch once receiving the ball and being that decision maker. The Phoenix Suns scored 0.83 points per possession in dribble handoffs. That placed them 29th in the NBA. Not very good, Beal in dribble handoffs averaged 1.16 points per possession in handoffs. And when you adjust it to players who attempted 90 dribble handoffs or more in the NBA, Bradley finishes second in the NBA, only behind Steph Curry. So it's safe to say that the Suns adding Beal in this aspect also helps them here, which I actually believe if Phoenix actually ends up keeping Ayton instead of trading him away, adds a new dangerous tandem potentially, because one of the Suns offense staple, especially in the 21 and 22 season, was the Chris Paul and Ayton duo. So potentially with Beal, we can see another version of that, but also with the dribble handoffs instead, which I do believe is something that the Suns should go over if they decide they want to keep Ayton. Just from an offensive outlook of this deal, I don't really see if any of the negatives of adding Beal. I know that a lot of people are going to reference how, oh, there's only one basketball on the court, but we saw the 21 Nets, who in my opinion, who are comparable or just flat out better offensive talent trio, they found a way to make it work, and that side had way more on paper issues to figure out because of how ball dominant James Harden was and how he was going to be able to mesh with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Beal, who on the other hand is a very effective off the ball scorer, as I went over, and he doesn't need as many touches as he did on the Wizards to be as effective. To be honest with you, I think you could argue this actually might be a better situation for Beal to be in from an offensive fit standpoint, mainly because of how now teams aren't going to key in on him as much on defense because they also have to worry about Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So he will have way more matchup luck on a night-to-night basis because of them two. Beal should have no problem integrating himself on the Suns. The cons of the Beal trade is that they didn't fix the glaring issues that they had, which is the rim pressure in the hole and the defense, particularly the rim protection the Suns had, which was one of the reasons a lot of people weren't sold on them and winning a championship, and was one of the biggest reasons why they lost to the Nuggets. But you would say that, well, that's what this offseason's for. It's for them to address those issues and get back even better going into this new year. Well, here's the problem with that. The Suns deal that they just made adding Beal put themselves in a salary cap situation that's really, really, really tough to manage. Combining Beal, Booker, and Durant's contracts, all three of them account for $130 million in the salary cap. And FYI, the salary cap for the Suns is $134 million. And that wasn't me adjusting for Ayton's contract, which when you add that, makes it a combined $162.7 million tied into 4 players. And unfortunately, I don't know the ins and outs of the CBA deal, but what I do know is once you're over the second apron, which the Suns will undoubtedly be over, they will put themselves in a situation for years to come, make it difficult to add in players through the roster in the offseason or either through trades, which makes it very, very difficult to build a coherent roster around these 3 players. However, I'm still in the belief that for what they had to give up, the Suns made the right move. They were already in a bad cap situation, so it wasn't going to change much on which certain players they can get in the offseason now with Beal. And for what they gave up, adding Beal is still a net positive to this team. Even though the weaknesses that the roster had before the trade exist, for the price Beal was for, I don't see how, even if I was the Suns GM, I can pass up this opportunity. So I 100% understand why this Sun deal was made. Now with this deal being made, it 100% has me more motivated even this early on to the offseason how next season will be. And with this big 3, I really, really, really am excited. And the Suns, if they can hopefully make the necessary changes this offseason and pick up a diamond in the rough to, rough out the edges with this team and maximize this team's new core, I really do believe that the Suns are still a dangerous contender out west and overall to win an NBA championship. But with that all being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys hit the like button and the post notification bell to always be notified whenever I upload a video. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you go over to Mars Talks Hoops channel. We dropped another podcast episode for you guys, and we had our first ever guest in Legend of Winning. I highly suggest to go over there and hit my link in the description below to go watch that pod. So with that being said, I hope all of you who watched this video have a blessed day.